God is sovereign over everything. He is sovereign over the entire universe. He is sovereign over nature. He literally has created everything that exists out of nothing.
It is the doctrine of sovereign election that empowers and ignites missions, and it is the doctrine of sovereign election that guarantees the success of missions around the world.
We will not build the church according to the changing whims of an ungodly culture. We will change that ungodly culture by the power of the immutable gospel.
All I have is God wrapped himself in flesh, died on a cross, nailed my sin thereto, was placed in the grave, rose again on the third day, ascended to the right hand of the Father, and is there making intercession for me until such time as my salvation is completed and he takes me home.
The more they see, the more they will love him. Stop giving them all this silly fodder and life principles and lay before them. Live your life in solitude, crying out to God. Live your life on your knees. Live your life with your Bibles torn asunder. Live your life for the people of God to be able to present to them the beauty of what he is, the glory of his cross.
There is no such thing as Mother Nature. God rules and reigns over everything. There's not a leaf that falls from a tree that God did not call it to fall at that very moment. God is in control of every single thing, meticulously ruling over the entire universe. Join us for the 2023 G3 National Conference on the Sovereignty of God.
In recent years, we've heard a whole lot about toxic masculinity. As an individual who despises all forms of feminism, I could never really quite get on board with the toxic masculinity bandwagon. I didn't grow up with my dad in the home, but I learned very early on that women are nowhere near the same as men. You see, I'm married to a man's man. He says how he feels, his yes is yes, and his no is indeed no. He's not going to spend a whole lot of time going back and forth with you, and he is definitely not trying to overcomplicate anything. Under his leadership, life is simple, easygoing. And if I could sum it all up in just one word, I would describe it as safe. He is king of safe. While I am grateful for my husband, his leadership, and his influence in my life, I did not realize just how much of a blessing he truly was until I started to see our current society as we know it start to crumble right before my very eyes. Our school systems are a mess, our inner cities are trash, and many of our churches, unfortunately, they're simply a mess too. Former President Donald J. Trump just the other day participated in a town hall meeting hosted by CNN. The host, Miss Caitlin Collins, a CNN female journalist, called herself facilitating the meeting. I witnessed a fierce, lion-like courage, a no-nonsense attitude, and testicular fortitude from one of the most polarizing figures of our modern history. But quite frankly, despite how other people may have perceived the exchange between the two, I felt like Donald Trump's behavior was a breath of fresh air. But Miss Collins, oh child, honey, Miss Collins, let's just say that she embodied the epitome, in my opinion, of toxic femininity. Toxic femininity manifests itself in a myriad of ways. Disrespect, arrogance, entitlement, and rude behavior seems to be the flavor of the day. What has happened to America's women? Why are we so toxic. Today, I'm going to examine toxic femininity. I've even given it an official name. I call it toxic femininity syndrome. Now, this is not a real medical pathology, but it is very much a real state of reality. Mary McLeod Bethune once said, "A culture can rise no higher than the moral position of its women." Well, after examining the culture and the state of today's modern woman, I am inclined to agree with Mary McLeod Bethune. So sit back, grab your favorite beverage, because listen, we need to get into it. All of this and more on the Standard of Truth podcast. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to the Standard of Truth podcast. I am your host, April Chapman. Happy Friday. Happy Mother's Day Eve, right? Yes, Mother's Day is Sunday, so this would be the eve of the Mother's Day Eve. I am happy to be with you this evening. We are not going to have a marathon show tonight. One, I have family in town. My amazing big sister is here with her 2 daughters, and I haven't seen them in a really, really long time. So I am trying to balance family, extended family, and my YouTube audience that I love so dearly. But I had to come live to talk to you guys about this pathology. Yes, TFS, toxic femininity syndrome. It is a thing. While it is not currently listed in the DSM. It is not listed as a medical pathology. I have termed a lot of what I see today as it relates to the female species as toxic femininity. And I came up with this term. One, several things inspired me to do this show. Oftentimes, when I'm taking in the culture week in and week out, and I'm on YouTube and I see other content creators making amazing content, I kind of glean from them, and that's a lot of times coupled with what you guys will send me via email. I will decide what I want to talk about, and so several things happened this week, several things happened this week. Not sure if you guys saw the CNN town hall meeting where former President Donald J. Trump, who very polarizing figure, you either love him or you hate him. It's hard to be in the middle, but he was given an opportunity to participate in what they termed a town hall meeting. But depending on your worldview and how you looked at that, you walked away from that with varying degrees of or perspectives, I will say. When I watch former President Trump, I'm from New York, so I always kind of tell people, like, listen, I'm used to the brash Brooklyn, Queens, tell it how it is kind of personality because I grew up there. And I don't wear my feelings on my sleeve. And then coupled with the fact that I was raised by a bunch of women, the older I get, the more I can appreciate a man standing in his full masculinity and just being a man. What many of us see today, and the reason why what we saw or perceived coming from Donald Trump was like, oh my gosh, that is just such toxic masculinity, is because our society is just soft. I'm talking like super soft, like, baby, newborn baby, like, oh, don't touch the baby kind of soft, right? We've allowed there to be this proliferation of feels, right? The feels. Everything is about the feels, and we're not allowed, to feel bad. And so when we hear someone being a straight shooter and communicating with clarity and with a matter of factness, if you're not used to that, particularly if you was raised by a female, it might be too much for you. And I get that, and I understand that. But I was watching Jason Whitlock's Fearless podcast, and he did a monologue that inspired me to say, you know what? This toxic femininity is a bit too much for me too. And I feel what he was feeling I completely understood what he was communicating. And he gave some disclaimers. Like before he did his monologue, he made it clear that he was like, some of my female audience, I don't know how y'all gonna take this. Y'all might feel some sort of kind of way, but I gotta say what I need to say. And a part of me was like, no, that's the problem. That, my friend, was the problem. The disclaimer, the qualifier. There was a point in time in history where men never had to apologize for being a man. They were just like, I'm a man. This is how we communicate. This is how we speak. I love you. But there comes a time when a man has to just communicate and say what needs to be said. And when we examine the culture and where we are right now in the world with the onslaught of influences that are trying to take our culture in a bad direction, we don't have time for a whole lot of disclaimers and qualifiers. We just really don't. And so that inspired me, coupled with that CNN town hall inspired me, coupled with what I see in my own community day in, day out from females. I parent two females. I grew up in a family full of females. Like I've just been exposed to a lot of estrogen, and I've seen the trajectory of the female species the older I get, and I don't like what I see. And so we're going to talk about toxic femininity tonight, and we're going to talk about it in terms of there's a spectrum, right? Like if just because someone might be exhibiting one or two of the attributes or traits of the toxic female syndrome, we can't put them in that camp automatically, right? But there's a spectrum, and I've come up with this spectrum, and I've come up with, you can have a mild case of it, or you could just be in full blown TFS, right? And I'll probably give you guys some examples as to what I mean when I'm talking about somebody that's, that's a little mild case all the way to like the full blown toxic femininity. I'll do that. But the thing about the term toxic femininity, it's nothing feminine about it. It's kind of like I always hear John MacArthur when he talks about grape nuts. He was like, it's neither grapes or nuts, but that's what they call it. Toxic femininity kind of functions the same way. There's nothing feminine about it, but the feminine part, the word functions more like a noun than a verb, right? Because it denotes the fact that the attribute applies to the species known as female, but it's not describing the behavior of a female. Meaning, I am of the opinion that God created male and female with inherent value. We all have worthy of dignity and respect and all that good stuff, but we are different. We are different, and we are wired very differently. And I am starting to notice that women are displaying a disposition and just like an overall motif, as you will, of a toxic female that is something that I'm like, I want to repel like the plague, because I've seen its destruction. I have seen the outcomes. We're seeing like right now an entire generation that has been more matriarchal than patriarchal, and it ain't pretty. It's like what we're seeing is not good. So what I want to do, first of all, there's no pill for it. So if you saw the thumbnail and I had the little pill bottle, the antidote to this is not something that we can package up in a prescription, right? Not at least not in a pill form of something you can take orally, right? But at the end of the show, which I hope you will stick with me throughout the time of the stream, I'm going to provide a little bit of what the doctor prescribes for this pathology. So let me read something for you. A culture can rise no higher than the moral position of its women. Now, in my opening monologue, I mentioned that Mary McLeod Bethune, who is a brown woman, by the way, she said that. And this quote is attributed to the late Mary McLeod Bethune. Born in the rural American South to a Black family, She was the female counterpart to the Booker T. Washingtons of her time. Like Mr. Washington, Miss Bethune believed that the long-term success of the Black race was through economic integration into the United States through education, strong families, don't miss that part, and strong religious ties. By learning how to read, write, do mathematics, and possess a tangible skill, Blacks would need not limit themselves to positions of unskilled labor only, but would become sought after commodities for their skills. And thus, as their economic standing increased, so would they be gradually integrated into society. This process would take a long time, but if followed, it would be to literally raise them up from slavery, as in the title of Booker T. Washington's biography. However, there was one major difference with Miss Bethune, and this likely came as an observation from her Presbyterian background. Shout out to all my Presbyterian brothers and sisters in the live chat, which was the above quote. In order to raise their people up from slavery, the root cause, listen to this, lay not in a simple social transformation, but also a religious and moral transformation, and specifically one directed at the women, because she is the vehicle through which new life enters into the world. She is the first teacher to children in their early years and sees first to domestic needs. If the man is the head of a people, then the woman is its heart. While it is important to have a strong head, if the heart is rotten or missing, then the head will only serve to further evil aims. Conversely, if the heart is strong and good, the heart will be able to make good and righteous decisions. The two provide vastly different functions, but are equal in their dignity, as they need each other to function, and what affects one part inevitably affects the other. I'm almost done. Catch this part, you guys. Miss Bethune's outlook on the place of the woman in society is applicable to all. For a long time, were taught by most cultures throughout human history. And when a culture failed to or stopped teaching them, that marked the decline and fall of these same cultures and even civilizations. I hope you caught that. What Miss Bethune-Cookman is saying is that we have history to prove and demonstrate that when a culture failed or stopped teaching the things that I spoke about, it marked the decline and fall of these same cultures and civilizations. The dignity and, most importantly, chastity of a woman is one of those issues, like honest, non-usurious money. It is one of the very small but critical linchpins upon which a great deal of social stability rests. You guys, she believed that social stability hinged and banked its foundation on something is what you modern life might say is insignificant, the chastity of our women. If a pin is removed or altered to such a point it is no longer functioning, then a society will feel the strain. If this happens with too many pins, then the society will inevitably collapse. In the case of a woman, the collapse is magnified because of biological reasons. Oh, would you look at that? We different, right? Yes, we are different. Not only could the society simply collapse, but its basic biological makeup could change, and the people that once inhabited it might completely disappear. This has happened many times throughout history, and it very well could happen again, as history tends to repeat because men make the same mistakes in different generations. You guys, the fabric of American society, it is crumbling, and it is crumbling before our eyes, and it is falling apart for a number of reasons. One of those is because some men, not all men, some men, more than I'd like to say, have abandoned their post and allowed toxic femininity to thrive. Yep, I said it. So go ahead and clip it. The brown girl from the Bronx said that our society, our culture, this nation as we know it, is crumbling right before our very eyes because some men have allowed toxic femininity to proliferate in this country, so much so that with that, well, one, apart from Christ, we don't know, no one has any hope, right? But knowing this, knowing that the toxic femininity culture and trajectory, if we stay on it, if history is true, which it is, and if we know it's prone to repeat itself, which it does, what do you think is going to happen to this nation, this once great, prosperous, and strong nation? Would you agree that we'll be weaker and less wiser than our predecessors? I would argue that we will. It is one thing for women to want rights, right? I would agree and affirm that there was a time in this country where it was just like, they just want to vote. Like, y'all gonna let them vote? Just let the women vote, right? Some even argue like that was a problem. As soon as y'all let them vote, that's when everything went downhill. I wasn't born, so I don't know. Depending, if I had been born maybe in the 30s or the 40s and remember what it was like when women could not vote and when society was stronger, I might have a different worldview and would say, yeah, they probably shouldn't have let us vote. But I'm gonna go on record and say, maybe that wasn't a bad idea, but I can see why, at least for the Black community. Yes, I'm just gonna say it. Because why? Because the demise of our community right now is at the hands of our women. Yes, the Black woman. Whatever. I said what I said. So, because of women's liberation, that whole movement, we now live in a time of profuse toxic femininity, right? Our nation, we are at our weakest. We are not strong like we used to be. And we are ruled and managed and controlled by this matriarchal, estrogen-rich toxicity that the only way I know how to fix it, one, obviously we need a spiritual awakening. Yes, I would agree. But at the same time, I'm not trying to divorce my faith from what we see out in the culture. But when we look at the history of this country, even in the absence where everyone wasn't a Christian, when gender roles were properly established, understood, and respected, things were just different. And you'd be hard-pressed to prove that I am wrong. Now, I want to play a clip of, I mentioned Jason Whitlock from the Fearless podcast. I want to play a clip of something that he said, and I wanted to just slow clap for like a whole minute after I heard it because it was so profound, and it helped me to, it encouraged me. I'll say it encouraged me and made me realize that, you know what, there is a remnant of men who see what I see, and they recognize that we're in an all-out war. We're in an all-out war amongst the genders. And the only way to win that war is that we just need a few good men. We need a few good men, some brave men, some godly men, some spirit-filled men, some principled men, to finally stand up to this toxic femininity. And then what those men are going to need, they are going to need some ride or die. They're going to need some ride or die women who are like, we with you, we ride with you, because this ship ain't going down on our watch. And y'all are going to need us as the stability to forward what it is that we are trying to course correct. So let me go ahead and play this clip real quick.
and party started right off the bat here. Women don't take bullets. It's not their role. It's not their job. It's not in their nature. Sane societies send men into war to die. It's biblical. Jesus Christ, a man, sacrificed his life for all of humanity. The sacrifice of man's life is practical too. We can be replaced. One man and many women can birth a nation. One woman and many men will provoke a homicidal genocide among frustrated and angry men. A woman's womb is far more valuable than a man's penis. The virgin birth of Jesus proves my point. Women are designed to be protected, shielded from dangerous conflict. The collapse of American society is directly linked to our decision to move women en masse to the front lines, to place them in harm's way, to treat them as men. They won't take the bullets that go along with leadership. It's not because they're mentally weak. It's because the Creator constructed them for a different purpose, a task arguably far more important. God created women to protect and nurture what grows inside their wombs, not rights, freedoms, and order. In the book of Genesis, God gave man dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over the cattle and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. The American culture war is a battle over dominion. The combatants are man and woman, believers and non-believers. That's what, when God gave man the responsibility of dominion over everything that creepeth on the earth. This is what he was talking about. Men protecting order. Women, they're not wired for the kind of sacrifice that men are. They have a different calling. They're responsible for the replenishment of earth and life. They sacrifice for the protection of children, not for the maintenance of an orderly society. Women suffer when their children experience discomfort. That's why the protection of feelings is so important to them. As women exercise more and more dominion over American society, we have prioritized the protection of feelings above truth and order. If a boy or man feels like a girl, the matriarchy affirms that feeling with little concern about truth or societal order. The priority is avoiding hurt feelings. That's how a society ends up with bat and balls men sharing a bathroom with and or competing against women. Feelings disrupt order and truth. America has eliminated tolerance for rebuke. It's too painful. We've twisted scripture to justify the elimination of judgment. Atheists love quoting the Bible, Matthew 7:1. Judge not lest ye be judged. They avoid dozens of scriptures where Jesus and the disciples directly command us to judge unrighteous behavior. They avoid context and a full understanding of the word. Man needs to be rebuked and judged by other men standing on the word of God. My gluttony should be rebuked. Behavior that contradicts God's instructions should be called out and admonished, including sexual promiscuity, guilty, and homosexuality, not guilty. Man and woman are outside the roles designed for us. We've created a society where we affirm everything that kills us out of fear that we might hurt someone's feelings. This new standard has empowered sin and the sinful. Twitter, you've heard me complain for years, has been the LGBTQ plus heaven. It has served as the muscle for the alphabet mafia. Anyone who stood on biblical values and refused to affirm transgenderism and homosexuality faced reputation assassination. The transgender crowd sees opposition to puberty blockers and gender mutilation as issues worth dying for. Men who want to be women will take and deliver a bullet. It's in their nature. Women who want to be men will take and deliver a bullet. They're that desperate to prove their manhood. It's time for real men to return to their nature and prove their manhood.
All right. I played that clip for a couple of reasons. One, I felt that it was important to hear a strong man who espouses a biblical worldview to articulate with clarity, gentleness, believe it or not. He was not harsh, but respectful. He said what needed to be said. He said what we needed to hear. I was pleasantly comforted to hear a man say that a man's job is to protect, right? To protect, not just to protect, but to maintain order. Order, what we see now, everything is just completely out of order. But to hear him say that, I'm like, okay, so there is a fundamental understanding of what's gone wrong. Is the fact that men are being crippled in a sense and prevented from maintaining order because of this strong, toxic, feminine, matriarchal influence. There are some segments of our male population that are bowing the knee. They are literally bowing to the whims and unstable, illogical emotions of today's modern woman. And they're doing so to our demise and to our detriment. And so, despite the fact that people may have felt, oh my gosh, like, why is Donald Trump talking like that to Caitlyn? Listen, that chick need to be put in her place. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. And I really do not believe that he was being disrespectful. Her behavior was actually quite disrespectful. She was disrespectful, dismissive. She was not being fair or objective. It was almost like they put a woman there on purpose to try to trap and just beat a dead horse. I'm not trying to turn this into a political debate because we're talking about toxic femininity right now, but I have to flesh this out to get to what I want to say. Instead of us being focused and caring about the fact that our economy is trash, we have the most porous border that we've ever had, our debt ceiling is out of control. This toxic female wanted to spend time talking about things that nobody cares about anymore. It's over. We get it. But the constant berating and trying to trap him and force him to answer a question a certain way and just being really rude, it was like there was no respect for the fact that this is the office of the president. I have my issues with Sleepy Joe, but he is the president of the United States, for crying out loud, and he is a man. You do not conduct yourself as a lady in the presence of a man with such disrespect and just discontent. It was, to me, it was such a display of brazen, I'm a woman, hear me roar, I'm gonna say what I want to say and do what I want to do. Forget the fact that this man is towering over you and he is a man. He is the former commander-in-chief of this nation, and he should be respected on mere GP alone. Even the one who we don't know whether he coming or going, that is still the commander-in-chief. And you say what you want when you ain't in his presence. But there used to be a time in this country where we had respect and decorum for the office. And you don't have to like him, but you darn sure needed to respect him. So when he came out and told her that she was a nasty person, she needed to be put in her place because she was out of order and out of pocket. Now, I said that. I hate to get that out. Now, when Jason said that we must protect order, that is a fact. Men must protect order. The feelings, the matriarchy, it has been allowed to run amok, so much so that there are men who know in their heart of hearts, just as much as they know that they got twigs and berries, that a man can never be a woman, because they are afraid, because they're afraid of the backlash and what people will call them. They won't stand and affirm what is true, and they will get along and play along with the charade. And now our children are being left vulnerable. Our women are now being left vulnerable because some female somewhere was just like, well, we don't want to hurt their feelings, so therefore we kind of gotta just go with it. If you feel like a woman, then we should treat you like one, despite observable reality. That is insanity to me. And I'm like, where are the men who are like, no, we're gonna protect women's sports and make sure that our women don't get pummeled by biological men? I don't care about his feelings. You ain't coming in this bathroom. You're not coming on this swim team. You're not competing in this category. Go create your own category. But we're not doing that. So let me talk about some of the traits of this TFS syndrome. Because we got to be able to identify it. We got to be able to identify the signs and the symptoms so that when you see it, you like, yeah, she need the antidote. One of the main signs of toxic femininity syndrome is this demanding of equality. Demanding of equality, but not just that, without recognizing the fundamental differences between men and women. Listen, I don't want to dig ditches. Okay, I'm not built to dig a ditch. Now post childbearing, my shoulders have gotten a little thick, but I don't have the shoulders, the chest, the back strength to dig a ditch. I'm not fighting for equal opportunity in that area. I'm perfectly okay staying in my lane. I don't want to dig a ditch. I don't want to climb a telephone pole. Do they have telephone poles anymore? I don't want to climb an electrical pole. I don't want to work on the power grid. I don't want to work on a railroad. I don't want to be on a construction site. It's funny how we demand equality, but then there's certain aspects of the world where we like, no, but we don't want to be that equal. Well, which one is it? Toxic female? You're demanding equality, but you're not using the good sense that the good Lord gave you to understand that there are fundamental differences between men and women. We don't have the same body strength, our arm spans, our hands. Now, some of us way more than a man, but that's a different story. That's not biologically natural. That's just this new modern world we live in with this Franken food they feeding us and the lack of self-control. The point I'm trying to make is we are different. We are not the same. We should not be demanding a level of equality that exceeds normal, healthy biological parameters. Hyper-independence. That's another symptom of the toxic femininity syndrome. You're too stupid to realize when you actually need some help because you think you got it all under control. You don't need nobody. You can earn your own money, get your own job, buy your own house. But it's amazingly funny. It's amazingly funny. Then when you hear somebody at your door or see somebody in your driveway that you don't recognize, you're not calling the police hoping that Officer Julie shows up. You want Officer Jerome and Officer Tim. That's who you want at the door. But this hyper-independence has given us an inflated sense, a false sense of security, not even realizing the level of vulnerability that we're in. We can't even see it when it's right there in front of us. Let's take during the pandemic, for example, when the country shut down and everyone was making mad dashes to the grocery store, trying to get provisions. You know who was not out there? your girl out. No, my husband was like, no, I'm gonna go and get us what we need. There were women that I know that was just like, well, like, I don't have no toilet paper. Like, what am I gonna do? And I was like, no, you independent. You got this. Go on and fight these crazy people at the grocery store. And when somebody manhandle you, what you gonna do? But the hyper independence, we saw it during the pandemic, where women were falling apart because the reality hit them that I've alienated and excluded all the men in my life who remotely cared about me or who would, at minimum, look out for me. They may not be my man, but they're a man that I know, but I'm so darn toxic, can't nobody tell me nothing, and I'm always, that nobody want to be around me. So now when you're the most vulnerable, when you actually need the protection of a man, there was no man nowhere near to be found. Y'all know I'm right. Y'all know I'm not lying. Overly difficult for no reason or cause. Just wake up difficult. Just as soon as your feet hit the floor, you complaining. You have to overcomplicate everything. A man asks you, do you want peanut butter or do you want jelly? It's like, well, peanut butter, the way the peanuts were churned. I mean, I don't really know if I want like the crunchy peanut butter, or maybe I want the soft peanut butter. But then again, the jelly could work too. But ma'am, it was a simple question. You want peanut butter or you want jelly? Those was the two options. Not almond butter, not cashew butter, peanut butter or jelly. Just being overly difficult, having to overcomplicate a situation to just make it way more harder than it needs to be. That is definitely a trait of today's toxic female. If you're ever in a group of toxic women and you try to talk to them, you just like, oh wow, like, like you can't even move the conversation forward because there's all these caveats and the margins and the outliers. You're like, ma'am, we just speaking generally. Can you just one of these? We not out here. We know you special and you the exception to the rule, but that's not what we talk about. Overly difficult. Strong feminist leanings. It's girl power this, black girl magic that, and women, we can do anything a man can do, and I don't see no difference between us, and I don't understand, if he can sleep around, why can't I sleep around? Just, you like, the toxicity is overbearing. When a woman believes that she is exactly the same as a man, you need to run. When she's trying to compete with you, for you, not for you, over you, particularly whether that's in a workplace environment, constantly trying to assert her authority over you. That's toxic femininity right there. That that's team too much. When she believes that men and women are the same, and well, I should be paid just as much as him. But when you ask her, okay, we need you to climb that pole. Well, why can't you make a provision, like maybe lower the standard a little bit? Because it's illogical and it's toxic. We saw it happen. No offense to our soldiers that serve. I get it. The military provided opportunities for so many people that they would not have been able to accomplish had they not entered in. But I do believe on some level, women should not be in combat. I don't want women on the front lines. But y'all fighting for so much equality. What happens when it's like, well, now you got to go out there and you need to be on the front line? That's equal. I mean, I don't know if is there a movement. Well, I'll tell you this. Because of the females, the toxic femininity, trying to preserve the feelings of a small segment of our population that is confused about their gender, these individuals are now serving in our military. You don't think our military is a little weaker because Fred now thinks he's Frederica. Like, this social experiment, we don't really know what's going to happen. They're in our military now. I remember, I don't know if it was earlier this year or last year, I saw a commercial for the Army that was so syrupy, sweet, sappy. I was like, we gonna get our tails kicked by China. I don't know if y'all see how the Chinese military train. They are building machines over there. I ain't talking about the weaponry. I'm talking about the men. They are building machines over there. And we are over here trying to make provisions for pronouns and assignment surgeries and allowing people who are not quite sure to what they want to be today or tomorrow fight in our military. You don't think toxic femininity has something to do with that, to push and co-sign that? I can guarantee you it wasn't toxic masculinity that affirmed that. It was like, yes, let's do this. Let's make this a thing. Let's let them into the military. Yeah, that's a good idea. That would make a great soldier. That one toxic masculinity that was championing that foolishness. It was weakness. It was toxic femininity and weak masculinity that allowed that to be a thing. You believe that you can compete with a man and be just as good, which tells me that you suffer from some mass delusion. I am reminded every day, I'm a whole grown adult. I have a 15-year-old boy and a 13-year-old boy. Those boys are stronger than me. They're stronger than me at their age now. I realized real quick, I was like, yeah, we're not the same. We are not the same. You believe the toxic feminine, the female that is infected with toxic femininity syndrome believes that alternate family structures are just as viable and is just as good and just as equivalent to a nuclear one. Yes, I would say that is a trait of toxic femininity syndrome. They are the ones that, well, love is love and it really doesn't matter. Like, you can have, two daddies and two mommies and you should just let them because it'll make them feel bad. Not even realizing that this social experiment, we have not begun to see how bad it really is going to be. We probably need another generation behind us to see the outcome of the children that are raised with these alternate family structures, just how much society has been broken down as a result. Willing to have a child on purpose and even planning to have a child on purpose without the father present on purpose, like willingly signing up with willful intent to be a single mother. I'm talking, they froze the eggs, they did everything they needed to do to bring a child in the world, knowing and actually not even wanting the man. If that's not toxic, I don't know what is. Not even requiring marriage as a prerequisite. Have you heard some of these modern women these days? You talk to them and they're like, yeah, I want to have a family one day, but it never includes, I want to get married and have a family one day. They're just like, they go into it with the assumption that it's not going to work out and that they're not going to stick around long enough for the man to actually be there. They literally live their lives as if the man is not important and doesn't even matter, but they want that baby. It is the most selfish, toxic foolishness I've ever seen. They do it on purpose. I'm like, you gave no thought or regard. Like, you thought that this was going to work out and that your children were not going to have some sort of deficiency because you chose this life for them. They didn't choose or ask to be here, but you purposely chose this life for them. That's a toxic feminine woman. I don't even like using the word feminine. They don't deserve it. Celebrating single motherhood as a way of life. Hear me clearly. My mama was a single mama. She never celebrated it. She always acknowledged, this is not normal. I am not your father. I want you to have a relationship with your father. My mother never talked down about my father in front of me. Whatever issues that they had within themselves, I was shielded from that, and I was allowed to form my own opinion about my daddy, and I did. Rest his soul, kind of, sort of, because I don't know if he was a believer, but that's not the point. The point is, she never celebrated that. She prepared me and let me know we got some deficiency here, but by God's grace, we're going to get through it and we're going to be okay. But she had no idea of the manifestation of those deficiencies, how that would play out in the fullness of time. But I knew you don't celebrate single motherhood on purpose. That's women who do that. That's one of the symptoms of toxic femininity syndrome. Wanting to be in charge, unwilling to concede, You don't want to play your part, but you prefer to fill the role of the man with an overarching desire to rule over him. That's Eve right there. That is that's those Eve females where it's like, I see them all the time. They come in my establishment. The man, he don't have a voice. He has no say. He has no opinion. They come in with all they toxic feminine, just they reek. And the man, he got his head down and he's just trying to live to see another day, because he already knows I'm not going to win this argument with her. She's not going to let it go. I don't feel like dealing with all of this. So therefore, I just let her be. What I would like to see is more men finally stand up and put their foot down, be like, no, this stops today. I'm tired of you and your toxic femininity syndrome. You need to get it together because this is unsustainable. Like, I'm going to do my part. For the brothers that's listening to me on this live stream right now, I am vowing to do my part and call out the toxic foolishness when I see it, and to check it in myself if I see it rising up. But we need y'all. We got to work together. I need the men to be like, no, today is the day where we're not doing this no more. And that's actually something that Jason Whitlock mentioned, and I'll get to that. I've got some final points when I wrap this up that he said that I was like, you know what, that's what we need. We needed more men handle, like y'all saw Donald Trump handle Caitlyn. That's what we need. We just need to tell her what's wrong with her. Now, she ain't gonna like it. She gonna scowl and scrunch up her face. But if she encountered that everywhere she go, I guarantee you she started rethinking her choices. If men stop dating women like that and giving them the time of day and just they invisible. The toxic feminine woman, she's invisible. Don't pay her no mind. Eventually she'll be like, okay, something's wrong. Is it me? Yep, it's you. And then ladies, you start checking these chicks. Listen, I told y'all a couple of weeks ago when I was in the vitamin shop, and those two ladies, the way they treated that police officer, oh, they got checked. I was like, so this is what we doing. This man who is serving and protecting, this is a routine traffic stop. He asked to use the bathroom. You're trying to tell me he can't use the bathroom? I was like, you are something else. You are something else. I was like, so this is how we're doing. He just can't use the bathroom. I was like, okay. I walked out and I spoke to that cop and I told him, I was like, I am so sorry that you had to experience that. And the sad part about it is, he was like, you know what? I'm used to it. It happens all the time. That is sad. That's madness to me. One, that you would be a female and be that disrespectful to this man who's done nothing to you. You don't know him from Adam. And I need to give y'all a little context. If y'all didn't, maybe it was a week or two ago, I went into the vitamin shop and these hyenas were going off and upset at the police because they pulled over this Black woman who had caused an accident and she was driving under the influence. And instead of them being upset the fact that she caused an accident, could have killed somebody, they were mad because the police held her too long. And that because she had on flip-flops, that was enough. I'm still trying to figure out what the darn flip-flops had to do with anything. I don't know. This is the insanity of these women. They just kept harping on the flip-flops, saying, well, they should just let her go because she been there too long. And I was like, well, did she break the law? Yeah, but she caused an accident, but it was with a truck that's used to causing accidents. I was like, what? I was like, do you hear yourself? You sound like a fool. Now, I didn't say that in my mind. I'm like playing this over because I'm like, so she hit him, caused the accident. They're giving a sobriety test to make sure that if she is indeed intoxicated, that she don't hurt someone else. And you're mad at the police officer? I was like, yeah, it's time for me to go. But yes, ladies, when you see the toxic femininity syndrome on display, as much as it can depend on you. Now, some of these hyenas crazy, it might land you in a fight. So be careful. Stay strapped. Jesus in your heart, not on your hip. But you got to start checking these nuts. It is unacceptable. I can't live in the world where this is the status quo. I'm sorry. Call me old school. Call me old. I'm fine. I embrace old. I'm middle age. I don't want to live in a world with all this toxic femininity syndrome. I don't. I want manly men who step into their role and say, no, we are protecting you. We're protecting y'all. We're protecting us. I want that. I got a few more traits of TFS. Yes, it's deep. The desire to conduct and explore sexual mores just like a man. That's toxic. And this is one that I can speak to because I grew up and came of age on the tail end of the Freaknik era, right? Where it started to become socially acceptable for women to have a high body count just like guys. And hear me clearly, I am coming from a distinctively biblical worldview, so neither one of us should have a high body count. Let's just be clear. The Bible is clear on that. My stance on that is what the Bible teaches. But when I'm talking about the culture at large, there are females that have a higher body count than some men. All you got to do is go to your local middle school, and that the reality of that will bear out. It is not the young middle school boys that's just trying, it's these girls. And who raised these hyenas in training? Women who suffer from toxic femininity syndrome. Women like Jada Pinkett's mama and grandmama who taught her how to explore special places on her own. That's toxic. That's abusive. That is wicked. One of the traits of the toxic feminine syndrome is the idea that there's nothing wrong with a woman running the streets and thotting it up because if men can do it, why can't we? Because you're not built like that. Your body is not equipped to handle all that incoming traffic, if you know what I mean. Not from a physical perspective or a spiritual one. Don't think that you are not going to deal with problems. Lord, if by God's grace, somebody does want to settle down with you after all that mileage, don't think that you are not going to have imprints in your mind from all of that extracurricular activity that is going to cloud your ability to connect in a meaningful way with your one flesh partner? Why can't we make it popular again to be like, no, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait because this ain't the life. I don't want that life. So yes, sexual promiscuity. It's on the list. It's on the list. And when we see that celebrated in the culture, we need to speak up against it and be like, this is not okay. I don't know when it became okay for us to twerk in restaurants. I don't know when that became a thing, but we need to make that shameful. When we see that, we shouldn't be like, hey, yeah, no. We need to be like, you nasty. You need to go sit down somewhere. You are embarrassing all of us. On behalf of the female delegation of the United States of America, you, sister girlfriend, are embarrassing us. Can you please pull your skirt down and go sit down somewhere and get off the table? If there was just one woman who was brave to say something, it might catch on. Or better yet, if men stop giving those types of women attention, because they get some attention, you need to just be repulsed. Just be like, oh, you all kinds of stink. Nope. Just, they're invisible. If they become invisible, eventually, Mary McLeod Bethune said it perfectly. She was like, it's going to take some time, but eventually you will reshape the culture, which in turn reshapes the society. But our women, we got to get it together. This toxic femininity is not going to land us in a good place. It is leading us into a perpetual state of just being unsafe and unprotected. So much so that we have sex trafficking that's just running wild and free. And at this point, it's so common, when you see it, you're just like, oh, well, she's probably being sex trafficked. It's no big deal. Like, there's no one coming to our rescue. And it's like we are destroying the fabric of our society we're tearing it down, ladies, with our own hands. We are tearing this down. Us. Unteachable does not listen. Nobody can just sit you down and say, hey, let me show you something. Why? Because when you come with an attitude of, well, I already know, and there's nothing you can tell me, and there's nothing you can teach me, that's toxic. Why? Because we're all growing. We're all learning. We're all evolving. A little humility, just being a little humble and recognizing that you don't know everything. And if you do, you can stand to learn a little bit more. That's okay. That's how we grow. But you can't grow if you are unteachable. Men don't want unteachable women. It's a headache. They're like, it's too hard. Especially if y'all, by the time you my age, if you haven't exercised your teachable muscles, where, for example, my husband met me, I was 25, we got married, I was 27. I was still in that moldable, teachable range where I was open to the possibility of learning new things. I was like, well, I never knew that. You taught me something new. Thank you. It trained me. So even now at 44, I'm still teachable. There's so much that I still have yet to learn, not just about life, but just in general. And being under my husband's tutelage, I love learning from him. It makes me a better wife. It makes me a better mom. It just makes me a better person. But you have to be malleable. You gotta be teachable. You can't constantly always resist and rebel authority. Because eventually, when you need some authority, someone to enact some sort of order, it's not going to be there. It's not going to be there. And I am not advocating and saying that all women need to submit to all men. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that we are going to have to get to a point where we change our disposition and how we interact and engage in the world in general with the opposite sex. Meaning, I don't care if it's the homeless man on the street or the guy that's changing your oil or the guy that's bagging your groceries. Show the man some respect. Practice it. Make it a part of your everyday life. Be courteous. Be kind. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Have a wonderful day. Just make it a part of your everyday vernacular. It will change your life. And you will find that there will be complete strangers out there in the world that will jump in front of a moving car to push you out the way, because men are trained to protect. But if they feel that they got to compete with you and it's always a one-up, when that truck comes and they see it headed towards you, they're going to be like, I hope you're fast. Hope them reflexes quick. I'm not jumping to push you out of nothing. Absolutely not. Because that'd be the same woman to be like, he touched me. he touched me. And the man is like, the truck was about to hit you. I'm pushing you out the way to save your life. But that's what toxic females do. They will manipulate and they will flip it, and they will turn a situation where a man is innocently either trying to protect them or shield them from something and turn it into now it's some sort of assault. Women are crazy. Toxic femininity syndrome makes a series of poor choices over and over again. And this symptom is a result because you're unteachable and don't want to listen to nobody. So you just keep doing dumb stuff over and over again, beating your head up against the wall. You bleeding, the head is bust to the white meat. And people, particularly men, are trying to come along and tell you, and you like, don't want to listen. Yep. All those bad choices. And then when the bad choices start catching up with you, now here's the other symptom. Can't be held accountable. Now it ain't your fault. It's not your fault. It's everybody else's fault. You are the eternal victim. That is toxic. Toxic females stay the perpetual victim, and they will make every excuse in the world other than own up to the fact that I'm screwing up. I'm screwing up. I'm not making good choices. I'm doing everything that is the opposite of what I should be doing. I need to retreat, fall back, and regroup. Nope, toxic females don't do that. They don't listen. So they make a series of bad choices over and over again, and then has the nerve to have an opinion about everything. Oh, you talk about opinions about it. Now hear me clearly. If you know me and you engage with me in real life, you'll be like, yes, April, indeed, she is full of opinions. Full of opinions. Because I think and I observe the world, and I just have opinions about a myriad of topics, some related to each other, some not. But there's a difference between having an opinion about everything and trying to assert your opinion about everything onto everybody else. Those are two completely different things. Having an opinion is not bad. We need to be thinking people. God wants us to use our brain and fully engage our brain in the decision-making process, in the discernment process. There's so many areas of life where we have to use our brains and formulate an opinion. That is a good thing. What I am talking about with the TFS syndrome, these women, half the time their opinions just be as wrong as two left shoes. They're rarely rooted in reality. Rarely rooted. It's always in some out there fantasy delusional world, right? That's where their opinions fly up in that stratosphere. Not rooted in reality, rarely based on fact, but because there's such an imbalance in their life with no men that love them, respect them, and that are covering them, they haven't learned how to think through things and to reason well. So what they do is everything is based on how I feel, regardless if it don't make no sense. That's toxic femininity syndrome. When you have the opinion about everything, but you refuse to leave room for the fact that you could be wrong. right? No, it's not possible. No, I'm never wrong. I'm not wrong. I am right about this, and this is how it is. And everything around you, evidence is pointing to the fact that you're wrong, but because you're arrogant, and you lack humility, you're not going to accept new information. So you will die on the hill of the incessant need to be right, even in the face of observable reality. Right? We won't accept the fact like, yes, I'm 20 pounds overweight. I'm going to own that. I'm 20 pounds overweight and I need to lose some. No, I'm 20 pounds overweight, but I wear it well. I can hide it. I'm just big bone. Ma'am, you're 20 pounds overweight. You're going to need to lose these 20 pounds to be healthy. But I feel fine. Like I feel okay. I'm okay. I'm not gonna argue with you. It's like, what's the point? Strong. I may have talked about this. Oh, yes. This one, there are two facets of this one. How are we on time? Okay, I'm doing good. Oh, hey, Kim. Thank you so much for that super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, hey, Henry, thank you for your super chat. Good to see you, right? Yes, we're seeing. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for supporting this show. I apologize if I've missed some of those. Yes. All right. Where was I? All right. This is the one where I said there are two aspects of this. It's the strong promotion of girl power, right? So you have the strong promotion of girl power, but then in the Black ethnic culture, it's the Black girl magic. It's the Black girl power and the Black girl magic, right? So, we have a general overarching overemphasis on girl power, and then it's the Black girl magic. Now, I'm waiting for someone to define what all this magic and power does, because typically people who are powerful, they don't have to constantly remind you that they are. So I'm curious to know if the Black girl magic and the Black girl power, is it just a reminder for y'all, or are you trying to convince the rest of us? Because I'm not sure. So I was just wondering. But yeah, that's a sign when she's always advocating that foolishness. Yes, she's on the spectrum. She's definitely on the spectrum with toxic femininity syndrome. People who have power or feel empowered don't have to always remind you and tell you that. So I don't know if they're just doing it or saying it to convince themselves. Because in my opinion, it's really a false sense of power. Because this Black girl magic and Black girl power, it doesn't ever seem to yield them the results that they want, but they are constantly on a pursuit of it, right? And it's like their little echo chamber amongst themselves, kind of like the cackling hens on The View, right? They got their little girl power triage. I call it a coven, kind of like, like the witch's cup. That's what I call them. If you want to see toxic femininity on full display, I don't advise this. You might need to take your antidote before you watch this. Is you're gonna have to read some scripture, because if you watch that show and you ain't got the full armor of God on, you might bust up your own TV, and I don't want that to happen. But if you watch The View is an example of toxic femininity syndrome. Them cackling hens, Lord have mercy. I don't know. I can't even tell you which one to watch. Just any episode. It doesn't matter. Just pick one. And then you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's toxic. That is toxic femininity syndrome. Okay, here we go. There are the last ones on my list. I'm trying to see. We talked a little bit about the alternate reality and living in your own delusion. We talked a little about that. But what this alternate reality and the delusion of mind leads to, it causes these women with this syndrome to be insufferable to be around, right? So typically, They travel in packs, right? It's usually a whole crew of them. It is very rare that you'll have a circle of friends where it's just one that's the top that has TFS, right? Like in my circle of friends, like we keep the TFS chicks, we keep them, I keep them way over there. Just because they stay far. But typically they travel in packs, but they are insufferable to be around. They're the ones, and when you go out to a restaurant and you're the server, you're like, oh, do I have to? Oh, please don't sit them in my section, please. Because it's insufferable. There's a level of satisfaction that you're never going to be able to achieve with them because they're never satisfied. Nothing ever makes them happy. I don't know. I think because we've emboldened this segment of the population as to why we see it so much, but we keep bowing to them. And what it does, it's like you're kind of feeding the monster. You have this, you got to starve. You got to starve this one out. It's the ones that demand things that in a reasonable world, you'd be like, why do you think that you should get this? Right? I'll give you an example. So, in my line of work, I retail items, and I don't want to give it away, so I got to change. I have to change some of the aspects of the story to make it relatable to you. So let's say you sell widgets, right? You sell widgets, and your widgets cost $10, and to ship your widgets, it costs $2, right? Just using nice round numbers. Someone with TFS is going to try to convince you that the widgets you sell for $10 and ship for $2, they're going to try to convince you that you should just give them to them for free. Just because. Just there's no reason, or just argue with you like, well, you've never charged $2 to ship widgets before. And you're like, ma'am, we've been doing this for 20 years and we've always shipped widgets for $2. Someone with TFS is going to say, no, I remember last fall when I came, the shipping of the widgets were free. And you're like, ma'am, we started this company 20 years ago. I was there when we cut the ribbon. I've been working here this entire time. We have never shipped widgets for $2. I can assure you, you must be confusing us with Acme Corp over there. We've never shipped widgets for $2. I mean, for free. It's always been $2. In fact, we've never raised our shipping rates on widgets. It's always been $2. The toxic female will argue you down and be like, no, that's not true. And it's like, you have to just disengage. You have to disengage. You cannot win because it doesn't matter. In a world where this pathology is allowed to flourish, they would have just agreed with that woman and said, you know what? I concede. You're right. Your widgets, I'm going to ship them for free. But the way we have to stomp out and stamp this pathology out, you stand there in truth and say, I am sorry, Mrs. Jones. To ship your widget, it will be $2. If you no longer want your widget, just let me know and I'll cancel it. But this widget, the one you want that's $10, it will cost you $2 to ship. Do you have any questions? Like, you have to just get matter of fact, because these women are so toxic that they think if they just wear you down, long enough, and they know what they're doing, she know good and darn well that you ain't never shipped widgets for free. But they figure if they just keep saying it, that it'll be so. No. I say you push back. Do not let these TFS infested women get a foothold. You got to fight back. So here is where we are going to, let me see. Hold on. This is what the note I want to end on. I done lost my place. Oh, I found it. Sorry. Overall, you guys have been a great audience. Thank you so much for the engagement. I appreciate it. No, oh, thank you so much for that super chat. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Is it J or J? Can you write it phonetically? Because you're like one of my top supporters, and I really appreciate it. And I don't want to butcher your name. I don't want to be toxic, right? Just be like, your name, Jay. I want to know how to properly pronounce your name. So if you can type out the phonetic pronunciation, and then that way, every time I see your name, I will be saying it properly. I want to respect you in that way. Here's where we are. We can no longer participate in our own demise, ladies. We need our men. And I know a lot of us may not be used to seeing a man step out in his rightful role and take his place. And for some of us, it is going to hurt just a little bit. But I can assure you, in order for us to course correct and change the course that we're on, we're going to have to be a little bit uncomfortable. And it's got to start with us. So, for example, what I do to combat TFS syndrome when I see it, I make sure, now I do it from the heart, but I'm doing it for the culture, right? I make sure when I'm out in public that I am always engaging with my husband in a respectful and pleasing manner. Why? Because I want the chicks that are infested with TFS, I want them to see there's something different. The way they engage, the way she defers to him, the way, like, if my husband has to tell me no, like, I'm not arguing with him in public. We're not going to do that. I'm not saying I have not done that where I'm pushing back. Like, I think I did that in a Publix once, and he was so mad at me. I didn't realize that I had relapsed, right? I had relapsed and I had a moment of TFS come out, but he didn't just allow it to go unchecked. He let me know what you did, that was wrong. That was disrespectful. And I felt bad. I was like, I owe him an apology because it was just inappropriate. Even if I disagreed, there is a manner and way in which you can disagree. But ladies, we're not emasculating men. We're not doing that. When you are on the path of trying to heal from TFS, the way you do it is you practice it in your everyday life, whether you have a man that's in close proximity to you or not. It could be a brother, it could be a co-worker. Start changing how you engage with the male species. Just offering a level of respect on the basis of the fact that they're just men, right? Because I believe, because it's so much toxic femininity in the culture, if we counteract it with the opposite, what will eventually happen is that men will start to pick up and see, and they will become empowered to say, you know what? Now, some men, y'all gonna just have to count the cost. Like Trump counted the cost last night when he told Caitlyn, "You are a nasty." He said, "You are a nasty person." She needed to hear that. America needed to hear that. Now, there's some women who suffer from TFS themselves that made them feel some sort of kind of way, but that gave me life. That gave me life because she was getting on my nerves that whole time in that town hall. That when he said that, I was doing a standing ovation. We was out on the deck. Me and my husband were watching it, and I was screaming. I was like, yes, put her in her place. Make her sit down somewhere. She was just getting on my nerves. But that is part of the antidote. The more of us that we counteract the toxic feminine syndrome, like those symptoms, I think we can course correct. But particularly for Christian women, I believe that when Christian women endeavor to live out their faith in all aspects of their life, everywhere they go, we are a light in dark places. And you know what's sad? The sad part about it is so many of our churches are toxic because there's an infestation of women with TFS, right? They actively rebel against their husbands. They don't want to submit. They want to just be in charge and just run everything. If you get a remnant of women, like, for example, at our church, we do church a little different, but we purposely defer to the men. And the men are leading, and they do pretty much everything. But I like it because it is a weekly reminder to me that you need to fall back, little red Corvette. You need to let these men handle it. Let the men lead. And even in environments where you're like, well, we've never done it that way before. That's okay. It's the biblical prescription. The men will get used to it. And the more they do it, the more they will show up, and they will do it more and more. And it'll change the trajectory of our families. Because y'all know, I believe that healthy families create healthy societies. And if our nation doesn't start repairing the family by women recognizing that we are out of order, we are out of place, we are toxic, and the matriarchy has to sit down. If we don't start recognizing that, we're gonna destroy ourselves from within. Final points. The Black community in particular, our toxic femininity syndrome is probably the worst. And it's so bad that the establishment is using the Black female, giving her a false sense of power in order to destroy our communities from the inside. How do we know this? All you got to do is look at Exhibit A, Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams was the archetype of the woman with TFS. And Stacey would crawl back into the hole from which she came. She wouldn't have the power and support if it wasn't for other women that are suffering from TFS supporting her, and then the weak men who follow behind them. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the remnant of Black men who were like, nope, not going to be able to do it. I am not voting for her. This ain't what I want. She is not good for the culture. If we had more of the women who recognize the toxic femininity syndrome that she possesses, and we started to course correct, she wouldn't keep coming back to Georgia trying to run and trying to win. She would have gotten the hint. She would have. But we're in a battle. We're in a war, and we're being destroyed from the inside because too many of our women are suffering with toxic femininity syndrome. I don't feel safe. Well, let me qualify that. With my husband being alive and being the head of our family, I absolutely feel safe. But when I say I don't feel safe, I am talking about as a female, as a woman in this country in general. My husband is not able to be 24/7 the eye in the sky hawk protecting his family all the time. I have to live in the world. I have to go out. But knowing the environment in which we live, in the level of crime, toxic females raise these miscreants that are terrorizing our communities. Most of them. Y'all know I talk in blanket statements. There are isolated ones, but in mass, TFS is who raised the ones that are terrorizing our community. I don't feel safe. There are men, good, strong, manly men, such as your Jason Whitlocks, such as your Tucker Carlsons. Hey, y'all can even throw Elon Musk in there. There are these men that are willing to count the cost, and like Jason Whitlock said, take the bullet. They are willing to risk it all for the sake of combating this toxic femininity syndrome and standing up as men and taking their rightful place. And I'm so grateful for them. And I am mentally preparing myself to be strong in my own right. If in the event, all of the men who are putting themselves on the line to say, you're not coming for these kids, you're not coming for the babies. No, we're not going to just hand this country over to you because of your wicked agenda. The matriarchy will not win. I'm prepared. We have to arm ourselves with the armor of God, training and discipling our children and raising them in the fear and admonition of the Lord, because the men that are laying it out all on the line and sacrificing it all, if, Lord forbid, something happens to them, we've got to remember all that our men tried to teach us and instill in us, in their absence. I am mentally preparing myself for that. I know my husband is going to hold the line. And I know he is not going to stand down and watch this country burn up in smoke because of the matriarchy. That's why he's raising those two boys. And those two boys, they not having it either. 13 and 15. And they show more testicular fortitude than most men 3 times their age. That's what we need. We need strong families. We need solid nuclear families. And we need those of us who come from alternate families to support the idea that we need strong families. And we need our men to step in their rightful place to beat down the hatches and to tell the toxic females, no, we're not going in this direction. We're not taking it anymore. So that is my very long extended rant for the evening on toxic femininity syndrome. What is the anecdote, you say? Well, for one, for the believer, we know that our marching orders are to fulfill the Great Commission. And we also know, because we have imperatives in Scripture, that for the Christian women, we are to live out and be the type of women that Scripture tells us we are. So that means if you're older, you are training the younger women to love their husbands, to learn to live with them in an understanding way. We're not building more generations of rebellious, toxic women. We're not doing that. We're going to teach these younger women, this is how you do it. This is how you care for your husband. This is how you care for the children. This is how you prepare a proper meal. Every day I am training and teaching my girls a different cooking method. Today, they made the cornbread. Yesterday, I taught them roasted sweet potatoes. The day before that, I taught one girl to make homemade pico de gallo. Before that, what we been cooking? They already know how to do like spaghetti, tacos and stuff like that, but training them, because yes, they need to know how to cook and nourish a family. They need to know how to care for a home, and they need to know how to function and how to respect their brothers and other men who are not related to them. So my admonition is, Christian women, we need to bring our rebellion under the subjection and the authority of Christ. If you've been the rebellious one, just repent. Just repent. Acknowledge, like, I don't know what I was thinking. I just picked up some bad habits along the way, but it stops with me. And then you live before your children in a way, let them see how you treat and engage with other men, even the ones that are not related to you. Be polite. Say thank you. Offer respect. And I can guarantee you, things will be different. We will start to see a shift. One, repairing our families and keeping our families strong, but even just how we engage and show up in the world. This war between the war of roses between men and women, it's not sustainable. I don't want to live in a nation run by a bunch of women. I just don't. Or pseudo one, like ones that think they are. I don't want that either. I don't want my military being full of we're not sure what you are today. I don't want that. I want some strong, burly men or thin little scrawny ones, but they got a whole lot of fight in them. I don't care. I just need them to be men. That's what I need. So here's to celebrating manhood and godly womanhood, and here's to fighting against the toxic femininity syndrome. And my prayer is that we would pick up the word of God for our marching orders and the anecdote to cure this social ill. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions? I am opening up to questions. I appreciate you guys stopping by and engaging in the chat. I know I can get a little loud and a little passionate, but it's because I know that the world hates God. I know that. I know that the gospel is the answer. But I also know that we have to take ownership and recognize that we're under divine judgment. We've allowed feminism to infiltrate and get so much of a foothold that now it's almost like the train can't be stopped, and we're eventually going to crash and going to crash hard. That's what I see. That is what I see. Okay, Amanda had a question. Let me see. Mrs. Chapman. Okay. Hi, Amanda. How are you? I'm so curious how you approach correcting your sons as young men with the appropriate balance of respect and authority, specifically when your husband is out of the home. Okay. I'm going to be honest, Sister Amanda. I'm going to answer this question in two ways. One, I have to give all glory to God and my husband, because the way he has raised my boys, it is very rare that I have to correct my boys because, okay, so I have two boys. I have one who he's just like the model child. If he's disobeying, it's because he misunderstood, not because he wants to willfully rebel. Now that's today. He's 15. I don't know, in a year or two, but he'd be practically grown. But he's the oldest. He's the first in the birth order, and he is just that child. The other one, he is an obedient child as well, but he will test his boundaries, right? He's the negotiator of the family. He's going to be the one that he's going to try to negotiate his way out when he does something wrong. And quite frankly, very rarely we've had to discipline him in such a way that it resorted in some sort of corporal punishment. We would take something away. But for the most part, when I tell my boys to do something at 13 and 15, for the most part, they do it. The second one, we may, you might have it like, didn't I tell you to do such and such? But for the most part, the Lord has been gracious to me that even when my husband is not around, all I do is say, your father told me to tell you he wants the deck blown off, he wants the black car washed, and he needs y'all to clean your bathroom. And because my boys, honestly, I don't know if it's because they think I'm crazy or they just don't want to hear me yell. They just do it. They just comply. And they get it done and they get it out the way, and then they move on with their life, because my boys know that I don't want to argue. I don't want to argue with them. I just want to tell them and just get it done so we can just move on and be happy. And I think they get that. And plus, they're the oldest. They're the two. Now, them girls, had you asked that question and switched them genders, I see them. Listen, girls are hard. Okay. I love my twins. I do. There is something so special about little girls, but that is the challenge. That's the ones I'm having the challenge with. My boys are very respectful. They submit to authority. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that because I have 2 boys and 2 girls, my husband, we've always been like, okay, he's always done the boys and I've always taken care of the girls. And this is making me look like the bad parent because the girls are the difficult ones. Okay, well, that might be true. I don't know, but I don't have problems. I don't have problems with the boys. It is my girls because they are twins and they are female where I got to call in the backup because I can say something and be very clear. And it's something about the filter when my girls hear it, they filter it through their brain, and the output is different than the command. So I oftentimes have to repeat myself with them. My girls stay on punishment. Right now, I think they've been on device restriction for like 60 days because because whether it's not doing their chores like they're supposed to, or when they were supposed to, or not turning in the device when they were supposed to, or not completing their school assignments in its entirety. It's always something. They're good kids, but to me, the girls, it's the girls. My boys, I wish it was I don't have the testimony of the boy smelling himself and now you got to knock him in the next week. I do have that testimony with these 11-year-old females though. I do. And the Lord is still sanctifying us in that area. They are getting better, but I have to be harsher with them. I have to be harsher with the girl. It's to the point, even my boys are like, what is wrong with y'all? Like, y'all she tell you to do it. Just get it done. Why are you making life so hard? My husband is of the opinion that that's just how girls are. I don't know. I had 2 boys first and they were super easy compared to these females. So I would say the appropriate balance of respect and authority, once they kind of hit 12, I would you know what it is? I think us moms, we're the parent, obviously, but maybe, I don't know this I can't prove it. I think sometimes we don't allow the men to discipline because we always want to step in and be like, don't be so hard on them, well, don't hit them. We probably want to step in and prevent that correction that needs to take place. And I never did that because my boys have been under my husband's wing since they came out the womb. When the oldest one was first born, I was still working. So I would drop him off at my mom's house, but my husband picked him up. I wasn't getting home till like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And so he was with my husband more than he was with me. Outside of me nursing him and, caring for him, he spent a lot of time with my husband. Then when the other one was born, it was the 3 of them. They were always together. And then by the time the twins came, the whole family was just all twins just change your life. They change because it's 2 babies at the same time. So the dynamics of the family changed. And they're the babies. So maybe we spoiled them. I don't know. I don't know. But I don't know if I was helpful. I probably did not answer your question, Sister Amanda. But I talk to my boys in a very matter-of-fact tone, and I'm direct. I leave the fluff out because what I've learned, men don't like a whole lot of details. They just want to go step 1, step 2, step 3. So I just go to them. I'm like, listen, your father said, maybe it's because I'm always saying your father said or your father wants, da 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 da. I preface the statement with that, and then they just do it. And then, another thing, we didn't do video games. My boys never had a PlayStation or an Xbox. it wasn't until recent years that we introduced a game console and they still don't even really play it like that. I don't know if that has something to do with it. It might. I don't know. And then my kids are also homeschooled, so they don't have the influence of that rebelling against authority from the government school system, maybe because when they see stuff like that, they're just like, that's crazy. Like when they see kids like showing out and acting up, they don't know how to process that because they're like, they don't have a point of reference for that. So yeah, I don't know. Woo, Victoria, I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna pray for you, sis. April, regarding your admonition towards girls, what is your and your husband's direction for their training and education, college, entrepreneurship? Okay. So we've been home educators from the beginning. So homeschool is all my children know. But they've also my oldest son remembers when I used to work outside of the home. He remembers that. But the girls, we've been entrepreneurs for 10 years, so that's all they know. We have so my oldest is in high school. He has a plan to go to college. My 13-year-old, he is not the college type. He is going to be a combination of trade and entrepreneurship because he likes earning money. He likes earning money. He likes saving money. He is all about, he's the bag chaser of the family. The master negotiator, like I told you. So my children have their own small business called Farmhouse Signature Home. They have a wood sign business. And they've had that. It's going on 3 years. So the goal is for them to always have that and to scale it. We're in the process of scaling it. But I do believe my oldest wants to go to college. He wants to go to college because he wants to go into engineering. The middle boy, we're preparing for him to go to trade school because he is my smartest child, but he is the laziest child. So he's just gonna get a trade, and I can see him maybe starting a small business. We're hoping somebody will want to take over the family business, but I don't know. The girls, it is too young to tell. I ain't gonna lie. I am training them and praying for them to find her husband because they are sweet as pie. They are, but I have yet to isolate my boys do well academically. My girls are the creatives. Very good in art. But they don't enjoy school. I can't make them. They'll do it, but they ain't no joy there. So entrepreneurship is definitely the goal. Yeah, that's all I can really say about that. We'll probably have one college bound, one trade, and maybe the girls will take over the family business. They all have worked in the business, so we'll see, but they're kind of too young to tell. Let's see. What was the other one? I think that was the only question that I saw. Vic. Oh, no, Amanda said it. Yes, said teach him to cook. Yeah, I said miscreants. Y'all know me. That's just how I am. Yes, I got to find these girls some husbands. They serve their father, so they'll be good wives. I believe that. We just some kinks we gotta work out. That's all. You are welcome. Okay, I appreciate you. Welcome. All right, guys. Well, if there are no more questions, I'm laughing at RC's question about the widgets, free shipping, but the widget costs $12 now, right? These people yes. Well, I get you. To be honest, the 2 minutes you spend arguing is worth more than the 2 hours. I use that as an example. Obviously, in the real life example, it was way more than that. But imagine that $2, the $2 that it costs to ship the widget, Jewel, imagine if the person, you have to pay 2 people to assemble the widget, bring the widget to you, take it up steps, set it up, like do everything. That $2 shipping is worth it, but they don't want to pay it. That's my life. That's what I got to deal with. Oh, it's okay. You're fine. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to go and spend some time with mi familia. My sister and my nieces are here. And I would have loved to bring my sister on camera, but she probably would have never agreed to that. Why? Oh, let me answer this question. I'm sorry. Why are you so supportive of Trump, who is clearly delusional and not someone we should be supporting as Christians, nor should we be supporting the other side as well? That's an opinion. I was very pleased with how this country was run under his leadership. Like I said, I'm from New York, so, and I'm not sensitive to, like, he is like super arrogant and super self-centered. But knowing the forces of evil that we are grappling with in the world and how an individual must engage with world leaders, those things don't bother me. I'm not looking for a pastor. I need good leadership. I need someone who knows how to negotiate with our enemies. I need someone who knows how to keep us out of a war. I need someone that knows how to financially stimulate an economy, create jobs, that understands manufacturing. Those are things that I need. I need the government to get out of my way and stop trying to tell me how to live my life, but rather maintains law and order, which would mean protect the border. Delusional, that is relative. If you're referring to his claims regarding the election, depending on what news you watch, you would probably think that he is delusional. I don't. I lived in a state that experienced widespread election tampering. That's what I'm going to say. I actually sat post the 2020 election and had to, in my county, go through hundreds of ballots and adjudicate them. I was a part of that process. I saw it first time. I saw how I was widely discriminated against in my county when they saw how I was registered. There was no impartiality in terms of inspecting these ballots. I sat right next to a person. It was supposed to be 2 people. They pulled the ballot up. You were supposed to inspect the ballot. If the marking was unclear regarding who they voted for, you were supposed to throw it out. I had this man sit next to me trying to, we argued the entire time because I was like, dude, really? So we just gonna be blatantly dishonest now? Then all of a sudden machines started. I lived in a state where I was actively engaged in that process. So if the delusion you're referring to are his claims about the election, I'm past it. I'm over it. But if you ask me my opinion, there was widespread irregularities. I will say that. There is no way that many people voted for the corpse that we have in the White House right now. I'm sorry. That is our commander-in-chief. He deserves basic respect. But I have fundamental problems with the way he is not leading this country. So if the question is, or if the assumption is that my conscience should be bound to not vote for one person because they're not a Christian, I don't know if that's the argument. None of these presidents are born again, regenerate people. They're just not. They are civil servants, fallen, wicked sinners, just like the rest of us. The issue is, if I'm going to be engaged in this political process, I am going to examine policy. This is where I think it's important to have a good, strong man in your life, because a good, strong man helps you make proper category distinctions and not get caught up in the emotion of, I don't like the way this person makes me feel. That's just a fact. I can have issues with the way or the sloppy communication style of someone like a Trump, and in the same vein, recognize that in the face of insurmountable odds, this person knows how to lead. I come from a city that was run and owned by Trump. He in New York City on lockdown. Nobody hated and despised him until he decided to run for president, including his former friend Oprah. He was friends with all of them. And let the truth be told, we have an establishment, a reigning establishment on both sides. I'm of the opinion, I don't even want to declare a party anymore. I'm looking at your policies. I want to know, are you going to close up the border? I need to know. I want to know, will you make us energy independent again? I want to know, because we need that. I want to know, do you respect and understand American ingenuity and realize that we can't sell out to China, right? Are you going to bring some manufacturing jobs back? I need to know that. I need to know what you're going to do about this inflation. I'm tired of paying $8 for my organic eggs. Sorry, $8.99 to be specific. Are our farmers going to be protected? Or are we going to let China keep coming in, buying up all this real estate? I have questions. These are some of the policies that concern me. Are we going to protect basic human rights, such as babies in the womb? Are we going to allow the states to decide? If you want to live in a blue state that wants to delete babies at will, fine. I don't want to live in a state like that. So I want the states to be able to decide that, right? We gonna get some jobs back. Did I say jobs? Because I really need some jobs. I need some jobs. I need the economy functioning well by being energy independent. These are things that concern me. I have issues about our current tax code, right? I'm a small business owner. I need good trade deals. I don't think the average American citizen understands how important having good trade deals are for the health and stability of a country. I am in an industry where nothing is hardly made here. We're importing everything. Our educational system, trash. I'm pro school choice. I think individual parents should be able to decide what their children are learning. And if your local school is trash, you should be able to take your tax dollars and take that money and put your child in a school that's performing better. Make these schools compete. Those are some of the values I espouse. I'm not going to sit idle and not participate in the political process. I believe it's my duty as a Christian to put the best in office that represents my values and the policies that are going to be the best for this country. So that's why I hope to answer the question. I've never hid who I am. Everybody who knows me knows I am a conservative, but I'm a Christian first. Conservatism borrows from my Christian worldview, not the other way around. Being pro-life is not a conservative position. It is a godly position. Keeping your country safe and sovereign with borders, that is a biblical concept. That is not a uniquely conservative concept. Being fiscally responsible, that is a biblical concept. That is not a concept. They have to borrow from my worldview. So that's just me. That's how I feel. And freedom of religion, that is important. I recognize that Christians are going to be persecuted. But I'd rather support someone that at minimum understands and respects the Constitution, that not wants to trample on it. My Second Amendment rights are important to me. We packed lots of heat in this house. I'm just saying, the Second Amendment is my fundamental right as a citizen in this country. Cities with the most stringent gun laws have the worst crime. So gun control helps no one. Criminals are emboldened when they know there is a citizenship when their citizens are not armed and prepared, they will take advantage of it. That's what we see now. Right. I mean, it's the past. It is. But he did do that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The uniparty. I'm so sick of these darn rhinos. I don't know what to do. Yeah. Listen. I don't need people to support him. I support the policies. I support the policies. For me, it's always been about policy. And if y'all knew the wicked forces we were up against on a global landscape, you'd be like, you know what? We need somebody that ain't gonna be no punk. Right? Like we would not be in a war, a proxy war with Russia and Ukraine right now if we had a different commander in chief. Like all of our weaponry and military prowess, we were strengthened, not weakened. Now all of our equipment, whatever wasn't left in Afghanistan, the Ukrainians have it now. Lord forbid it. Listen, y'all just don't. We are not the strong American force that we once were. We are just not. We weak as puppy pee right now. It's bad. It is bad. Oh wow, 16, 14, 9, 6, and 5. Oh wow, you guys you are fruitful. Amen. I love to hear it. I love big family. A widget is just like a generic term that I assign to like something that you sell. Widgets. Just widgets, right? Yeah. I am not a basketball fan, Vic, so I don't know. Doesn't LeBron James play for the Lakers? Whatever team he's not on, I'm going for them. I don't like LeBron James like that. So yeah, have you heard of Vivek Ramaswamy? I just started seeing him. He's running for president, and I think I have not. Send me some links about him. I'd love to learn. Listen, I'd love to have a Christian in the highest office of the land, but I'm gonna be honest. The Bible tells us, the Bible never says, it defines a just ruler. Like we should want a just ruler, someone who is going to rule justly, but they don't have to necessarily be a Christian. We don't live in a theocracy. I just want someone who is just. And they're not going to do that perfectly because they just wicked, it just is what it is. But I have children that are coming up, and I don't even have children in the school system, but I am very concerned about the educational system and the agenda that is being pushed on our children. Somebody has to stop that at a federal level. Granted, it needs to be stopped at the state level. I really believe that's where most of our power is. But at the federal level, like we got to do something with this alphabet agenda. Like it's just out of control at this point. And there's only one particular side that wants to push that. Like that's all they want to do. They want to push that and kill babies. I'm not okay with that. I'm just not. But if your conviction is like, I can't support none of it, I respect that. I'm cool with that. Like, it's okay. I'm not dividing with blood-bought believers over politics. I'm not. But I'm not gonna hide who I am too. We used to live in a time in this country where we could respect one another and have a difference of opinion. And we need to get back to that. Like, If you're like, I don't want no parts of that, I respect that. I'm cool with that. But I am who I am. And I'm gonna be who I'm gonna be, right? Yeah. Who wait, what did I miss? He's the reason Don Lemon got fired. Oh, really? Sure, I would love to. I would. I would like to do. You know what it is? I really want to do that because I believe. Okay, so now when I say this, y'all don't get offended. But hear my heart when I say this. A lot of what we've been told and a lot of the information that we consumed from mainstream media, a lot of people have a hard time believing that they were lied to, right? And so, because I am of the opinion that a lot of people hold the positions that they hold because depending on where you got your information from, you got propaganda, is why I believe some people, a lot of people really just don't know. They're like, I didn't know that happened. That really happened. Really? That's not what they say. I'm like, because they've been lying. We've been lied to. We've just been lied to. And as believers, at some point, we got to be like, you know what? I don't like so and so. They rub me the wrong way, but all I care about is the truth. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, if someone is telling me something that they are purporting to be true and it bucks against my deeply held presuppositions, are we willing to say, you know what? I did not realize that I was wrong on so much. And now I feel some sort of kind of way because now I feel like I've been lied to. Like we all have to have that moment. I had it. I went through it. Like I had thoughts and opinions on the pandemic. A lot of people, the opinions that they hold on a lot of these issues is because they bought the narrative. They believed the lie rather than the truth. And so if I, as a Christian, can kind of shed light and disseminate information in a way that you're like, this is my first time hearing that. I did not know that. I would hope that you would at least be like, you know what? I'm going to take that under advisement and do a little bit more research because that really messed me up, April. I wasn't prepared to hear that. I didn't know that was happening. There are a lot of people like that we've been asleep. We just haven't been paying attention. We haven't been listening, and we've been listening to voices that want to shape a certain narrative and want us to view the world a certain way. They don't want us to view the world the way it is. They want us to view the world in a way that allows us to be easily manipulated and controlled. And so yeah, I'll say that. But I say I was leaving like 20 minutes ago. I don't know how this happened. I don't. You said you don't think you'll recognize him. He's the author of Woke Inc. I'm still not familiar. That's a book? Listen, y'all putting me on. All right, text me. Both of y'all. Text me so I can get put on. I want to know. I want to be exposed and broaden my horizons. I don't know who this person is. I've never heard of him before. Okay, cool. That's cool. I will. No problem. All right, you guys. Housekeeping rules, notes. Let me just do not forget about the G3 conference. Use my code STP G3 STP to save 30% off. September 21st through the 23rd is the G3 conference. Registration is still open. I hope I'm going to see you there. Also, the Standard Home and Living Lifestyle Store, we are still having a sale. I still have some merch left. So go to the store, visit, take a look, browse around. Let me get y'all the QR code so you can get y'all. My spring sale is still going on. That's the QR code to save yourself 30% off. If you scan that code and it takes you straight to the website, when you check out, it will apply the discount at checkout. But if not, I will link the discount code in the description of this show when I sign off so that you can get you some Bible studies. I have t-shirts galore. Y'all, please take some of the stuff off my hand. I cannot make room for new items if I don't clear out some of my winter and early spring merchandise. dice. I'm trying to see specifically. I got so much stuff. Y'all just go check it out. That is an excellent way that you can support the channel by visiting the store and grabbing yourself some merch. I'll leave it up there. I'm gonna see if I can put it over. Link the code. Yeah, let me see. That's the code. And then I'm gonna link the code. I'm trying to remember how to do that. That's the QR code up in the corner. Y'all see it right there? That right there? You can click that one. I'll leave that up while I play the outro. I'll do that. Thank you so much, beautiful people, for joining me tonight. I'm so grateful for all of you. And I'm going to go spend some time with my family. Love you. Grace and peace.
God is sovereign over everything. He is sovereign over the entire universe. He is sovereign over nature. He literally has created everything that exists out of nothing.
It is the doctrine of sovereign election that empowers and ignites missions, and it is the doctrine of sovereign election that guarantees the success of missions around the world.
We will not build the church according to the changing whims of an ungodly culture. We will change that ungodly culture by the power of the immutable gospel.
All I have is God wrapped himself in flesh, died on a cross, nailed my sin thereto, was placed in the grave, rose again on the third day, ascended to the right hand of the Father, and is there making intercession for me until such time as my salvation is completed and he takes me home.
The more they see, the more they will love him. Stop giving them all this silly fodder and life principles and lay before them. Live your life in solitude, crying out to God. Live your life on your knees. Live your life with your Bibles torn asunder. Live your life for the people of God to be able to present to them the beauty of what he is, the glory of his cross.
There is no such thing as Mother Nature. God rules and reigns over everything. There's not a leaf that falls from a tree that God did not call it to fall at that very moment. God is in control of every single thing, meticulously ruling over the entire universe. Join us for the 2023 G3 National Conference on the Sovereignty of God.